Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. I'm DV LeBron, and today I got a special guest, um, Mr. Michael Scott, who is the city manager for Waxahachie. How are you doing, sir?
Fantastic, DV. How about you?
Doing good. So, if you don't know about city managers, this is the gentleman who actually runs the city, the day-to-day stuff. The do we need more traffic lights, or we need more trucks over here or there? This is the man. This is the person who does that every day, the day-to-day stuff. No politics involved with Mr. Scott. They stay nonpartisan, bias-free, and they just do a job for the city every day. A lot of people don't know that this position may exist. So, Mr. Scott, how are you doing tonight?
Man, couldn't be better. Couldn't be better.
Can you go ahead and kind of give them a brief overview on you and your position?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Again, my name is Michael Scott, and I've been at the city now for about 20 years. I've held a number of positions here at the city, and of course, currently I'm the city manager. Been in this role for about 4 years, and essentially a city manager, and you're exactly right. A city manager kind of tries to stay out of the politics. We have a charter which basically lays out how the city's set up, and we've got 5 council members. They're my bosses essentially. They're elected by the constituents here in Waxahachie, elected for a 2-year term on a staggering basis, and then essentially I report to them, really just to kind of run the day-to-day operation, let them kind of handle the ordinances, adopting the budget, and doing some of those things, where I kind of handle more of the personnel matters and just the day-to-day activities here at the city. So we're a full-service city. We operate 2 water plants, a sewer plant, of course, emergency management, public safety, police and fire, parks and rec. We've got economic development, downtown development, Convention Visitors Bureau. We're a full-service city, and essentially all those functions fall under my purview. So it's a lot to manage, but we've got some great people that help me do it and serving our community.
Well, thank you for doing that. I mean, it is I could only imagine what that job entails every day and what goes into it. All the little gadgets when cities running, governments running, and you got to manage those things. There's a lot going on in Waxahachie since the last time we talked, and every time you look on the Waxahachie city page, or something, maybe an article for one of the local papers or local news, and they're talking about some construction and something getting fixed, or some roads, or there's always something going on in Waxahachie as of late. We're growing like crazy, and I know that the politicians kind of manage those plans, but the plan does affect you, and there's a new plan coming out. I'm sure that is the city side allowed to put input into how the city grows, or no?
Oh, absolutely. You mean as far as the community goes?
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going through a comprehensive planning process, which really is a very open process. The city staff really is more of a facilitator of that process, with the idea that it reflects the will of the community. And so it's very much an open process. We're kind of about 75% of the way through that process of updating our comprehensive plan. And that lays out kind of our blueprint for our community moving forward. So once we get that feedback from the community, the consultants assemble that, and it's adopted formally by the council, and that becomes, like I said, our blueprint moving forward for staff to execute on.
Yeah, it's going to be big, and it's supposed to go out, and the thing is that everything is moving so quickly, and communities being built, and so one of the things that I want to talk about is budgets, because we all got to run under budgets, and the city does too. And so right now, currently, and I talked to Mayor Barnes, I had him on, and I've talked to a couple other folks, and I know that the city part of the budget for next year is already in tow. What are some of the priorities you think are going to be needed in the next budget?
Yeah, you alluded to the growth that we're experiencing, and certainly kind of keeping up and managing that. What goes along with that, of course, is keeping up adequate public safety for police and fire to adequately serve the growing community. Of course, roads are always a challenge. We were, woefully behind as far as maintaining our aging infrastructure. I'm going to rewind maybe 10 years ago. We began kind of biting off that process of trying to restore some of our aging infrastructure in the way of roads, and we're continuing to work on that in our current budget, as well as our future budget. We'll continue to work on that. So it's really it's maintaining what you have and making sure that you're poised in such a position that when that growth comes, you can adequately serve the new folks in your community. We welcome, gosh, about 200 people every single month to Waxahachie, new residents. We're growing at that rate, and so when you go
Wow.
to HEB, you don't necessarily see the same people that you saw last week. It's a constant new flow of folks coming into our community, which is a good thing, but also it brings some challenges. And so we need to continue to maintain our aging infrastructure that has served our community for many years, but also be relevant and able to serve the new folks that come in the way of new developments, new infrastructure, new amenities that really our community needs to have as a growing community to continue to be a place of choice for folks to want to live and play and work and come and call home. So it's a constant challenge, DV, and no 2 days of mine are ever the same, just because there are so many different things coming at us all the time, which I love from personally, just because it makes life very interesting. But it's also just a constant challenge to keep up with it all.
Yeah, and I could only imagine. So you mentioned infrastructure. Let's talk roads. One of the things that are mentioned often online is the roads, and people have memes that they put out for the roads, and
Yeah.
it's funny online, but it's serious stuff. And I'd like for you kind of to go into what the city is doing now with roads, and kind of give us a 30,000 foot view on what that's costing.
Okay.
What's that entailing?
Yeah, and I would always classify it into like three different categories. So we maintain our existing roads in two different ways. One is we just basically do a scarification, which is like the basic resurfacing of the road, and that's the best way of spending money. I guess to spread it out is and make it stretch as long as you can. We spend over $1 million a year on our scarification program, and we touch a number of streets. In fact, one year we completely rehabbed all of Bullard Heights. We were able to do like 27 streets that year on that $1 million+ of scarification dollars. So there's kind of that rehab dollars. That'd be one category of maintenance for roads. The second flavor is what we call a corridor project, and these are large scale projects. Which right now we're in the Bellevue edition. We're finishing up some roads over in the University's edition as well. Where this is where you've got aging pipes underneath the road. You've got maybe poor drainage, you've got maybe lack of sidewalks, lack of street lighting, and you go in and you can do a complete corridor rehab where you're changing out the water, the sewer, adding curb and gutter, adding sidewalks, adding maybe antique lights to the neighborhood, and really kind of completely changing the facelift of that neighborhood. And we've done that throughout the community and actually touched a number of different communities, parts of the community with these types of projects. And these are multi-million-dollar projects. In most cases, they're probably, it ranges. Just figure about $3 million per corridor project that we do. So we usually are executing one or two of those a year, in addition to the scarification program. And then I was mentioning earlier about the new development coming to the community. We have something called impact fees, which essentially allows for new capacity. They're dollars that have to be earmarked for new capacity projects. So if we have a road that is going to open up a new development and serve a growing number of population, not just a rehab, but a new road, or adding capacity with an existing road, you can use impact fee dollars. So we have a kind of a third flavor, which are those projects which are more kind of accommodating that new growth. So those are kind of the dollars we're talking about. Again, it's $5 or $6 million a year on roads, which seems to always come up. As much as we say roads, we spend a bunch on water and sewer as well, and because we've got aging pipes in the ground that need to be rehabbed also.
What does that look like right now? Because I know there's been a lot of work when it comes to sewer and waste. And I'm sorry to interrupt, but
yeah, no.
just kind of go into that and let me know, or let the people of Waxahachie know kind of what's going on with that.
Yeah, so on both the water and sewer side, we spend between $4 and say $7 million in replacement of pipes and new pipes in the ground. Of course, along with that, as we try to open up new areas in the way of, I'll take sewer for example, we can really manage growth largely through our sewer capacity. And so as sewer lines are available and capacity is available in those sewer lines within those creek basins, that can open up areas for growth. So in kind of the northeast quadrant of the city, you've seen a lot of growth in our community. And a lot of that is because of many years ago, we made a conscious decision to provide additional sewer capacity for kind of the Grove Creek, Mustang Creek, creek basins. And so you've seen a lot of growth in those areas. And so what we've done is we've added pipes in the ground to provide for that sewer flow, added lift stations, increase the size of the lift stations. And then as you kind of continue to go on downstream, you ultimately have to end up at the sewer plant. We have to look at capacity in the sewer plant and making sure that that is sized in such a way and growing in such a way to accommodate the new growth that's coming. Like I said, about 5% a year. So we're constantly having to add new water, new sewer pipes to provide for the growth.
How old roughly was the piping when you started working on it? I mean, it goes back to when they first started installing pipes.
Yeah.
Are there pipes that old
Yeah,
running?
and what's amazing, it's almost like an archaeological dig in some cases, because you're finding clay pipe, which of course isn't used any longer. You're finding lead pipes. You're finding these technologies that have been far replaced many years ago, and you're like, oh, here's one of these archaic clay pipes, and you dig it up and replace it with a new PVC type pipe. So yeah, you kind of know the age just by the materials that were used.
You're like, this is how the Romans did it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's
So
exactly right.
it goes back that far. Okay, well, I mean, that's a lot going on with those things. I've seen a lot of construction, and I know that we're building an annex. Can you give the people of Waxahachie kind of an update on that construction?
Sure, I'd be happy to. In fact, I appreciate you asking about that, because that project is one that's kind of near and dear to my heart, just because actually one of those positions I held formerly was a planning director, and I literally at that time, this was, gosh, about 15 years ago, I was in a broom closet converted into an office. So even back then, we were suffering from kind of growing pains as far as space. And this annex, of course, is going to add another about 26,000 square feet of office space for our development services folks. So that'd be everyone from planning department to utilities to engineering and public works, as well as building community services. So all those functions are going to move across the street to the annex. Our date of completion right now is the beginning of next year, so January of 2023. And frankly, it can't come quick enough because we're completely out of space here at City Hall. So and really, what's great is all those services, all those functions kind of operate together. We have something called DRC meetings on Wednesday mornings, where the development community can come in and meet with those folks collectively and have a discussion about all those different factors that may play into their project. Well, this will be a one-stop shop for them to go over to that annex, sit down and meet with all the folks from those different disciplines and get their answers and keep their project moving. So it's a customer service piece, because it'll serve them very well, but also it's going to allow us to, as we grow, to continue to accommodate personnel that we may need in the future. So projects come along great. We're on time and on budget, and which is kind of you don't see that very often these days with the costs going up the way they are. But currently we are on budget and on time for this project, and it seems to come along pretty well. So
That's
very
pretty
excited about that
that's
project.
pretty amazing. That's pretty
Yeah.
amazing with the way things are the expenses. That was the next question I was going to ask you on that. Are we busting the budget? Are we having on that? Are we having to go to the council and ask for more money?
Not on that one, DV. And I'll tell you, we do a process of construction called construction manager at risk. And the way that delivery method works is they guarantee a maximum price for the project back when we hire them. And we agree on a price and we lock it in, and they're able to start procuring different materials. Like, in fact, we released steel early just to be able to lock in pricing. I'm sure there's a lot of other things they would have liked to lock into, including like concrete, some of the other things that are going up. But we're able to lock that in, and so that price is capped at that guaranteed maximum price. Now, I will tell you though, I mean, of course, we're continuing to do other projects, and there are a lot of projects that are coming well over what the engineer's estimate of probable cost were, just because the costs are going up faster than inflation factors and some of the other factors that they're playing into their costing. So yeah, we have a number of projects that really are going to be over budget, from what we originally expected.
What project do you think most of all probably is going to cost us or hit us intensely?
Well, I'll give you an example. So Monday night, this is kind of a preview of the next council meeting. We're building a fourth fire station here in Waxahachie, and this will be located over on Broadhead Road, Brookside Road. We began this process 2 years ago. Okay, and so we had budget numbers set 2 years ago, and we estimated about a little over $5 million is what we allocated, and it was bonds were issued, and it was a $5 million project. Of course, that was 2 years ago, and think what's happened in 2 years. The current pricing is closer to a little over 8. So, I mean, completely a budget bust from that standpoint. Those inflation numbers just hit us hard. But I mean, you factor in the time, and then of course supply chain issues and material availability and labor costs are through the roof. And yeah, it's now an $8 million fire station. So
Wow.
yeah. So it's a real thing. And thank goodness we have a strong fund balance, which is helpful. And it's kind of a rainy day fund, which this is a perfect example of one-time expenses. You don't want to do it on recurring expenses, but one-time expense that you've got the dollars to do it, and that you've been planning for that fire station. We've added 12 firefighters the last 4 years at three a clip for a total of 12 to be able to move right into this fire station. We've already ordered a fire apparatus, an engine to go out there. And so we've been planning for this. And so it's not like you can just put the brakes on and say, hey, you know what, maybe we'll just wait on that fire station. We've been planning, we've got strong sales tax, which help. Or like I said, our fund balance is strong. And so staff's recommending that we just move ahead and say, you know what, we had good bids. We had lots of bidders on this project. We don't think it was things were out of sight because they were all pretty consistent, pretty tight. And we're recommending moving ahead with that additional budget amendment.
Have you had to adjust your priorities because of the budget, because of things that are going on right now with inflation?
Well, I don't know if I'd change my priorities. I think we're definitely scrutinizing bids and the timing of those bids, and really the making sure that these projects are essential. So I guess in that regard, I guess maybe we're looking at priorities, but we just need to make sure that any project that we bring forward, with given the costing of materials and these projects, we just need to make sure that they absolutely are essential projects, and we don't want to bring anything forward that we couldn't stand behind and justify as essential.
Going forward, and I know that we kind of touched on it, but going forward, what do you see the most pressing issue being that you're going to have to deal with as the city manager?
It's interesting because this has kind of come up in the last year or so. Is we have something called municipal utility districts that have petitioned to come in around the city. Essentially, these are ETJ developments. They're outside the city limits, and they come in and they petition the state through the Texas TCQ, Texas Environmental Commission on Quality on butchering that TCQ with the state, and essentially they petition for a discharge permit to be able to operate a sewer plant and have authority to essentially it's a new jurisdiction. They'd be able to tax almost like a municipality could, and they locate right outside your city. And so we're facing a number of these now. I think we've got 8 or 9 of them right now that are in the works, where they've requested permitting through the state, and the state generally is pretty favorable to these districts, and they're not good for a city because essentially they will really stifle the growth and our ability to expand to accommodate a new growth, and they would essentially operate as a separate independent entity outside the city. And so as a challenge, that is something that we've been facing here recently that we're still trying to tackle. We're fighting a number of these at the state. We're trying to work with some of these to maybe either work on an annexation deal or bring them into the city, or a development plan that is agreeable to the city. But a lot of them are very high density. They, like I said, they discharge their own sewer into our creeks and waterways. They may have rural water supply. And then they have their own, they either contract with the city or with the county for police and fire. And frankly, they're not a friend of a growing city like Waxahachie. They're a challenge. And so that's something that really we're still trying to tackle and figure out how to best tackle. I'm always in the mind of, hey, if we can work together. I mean, I realize I'm all about property rights. I understand, people want to be able to develop their property, but you also don't want to do it at the detriment of a community like Waxahachie that they're going to be looking to will shop and have schools and all the things that go along with being near a community. So, Dee, that's a big challenge we have right now. Another challenge is employment. The labor force, the best way I can describe it, and I'm not telling anyone anything that they don't already know, but it's a very finicky kind of labor market out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And attracting and retaining employees is difficult. COVID certainly didn't help that. I think people got very accustomed to working from home and a lot of flexibility. And so when we're like, hey, you need to work 40 hours a week, and we don't really have a remote work option at this point, that can be a turn off. Like I say, they're chasing a couple dollars an hour to go to the next place in some cases. And this isn't across the board, but there are just certain positions that seem to be more and more difficult to fill and retain good personnel. And so that's always a challenge. I mean, personnel is always a challenge. We've got over 400 employees, full-time employees here at the city, and about 30 part-time. And yeah, it just becomes a challenge when you got that many folks and that many positions that you're trying to retain and keep happy and keep focused. And keep that dedication level up. It's just an ongoing challenge. I think that's true of most municipalities at this point.
What kind of things have you been looking at to maybe get people to come in and work for the city?
Yeah, council was really gracious here. Last month we took an item to them to have a mid-year COLA adjustment, cost of living adjustment, and they were very gracious in saying, yeah, we recognize that this is a finicky job market. We need to do some things to kind of keep that carrot out in front of employees and keep the good employees, because we have an amazing staff. We have just incredibly seasoned and educated professionals that just bring it every day, and they're fantastic. But you also don't want them to get poached from other communities, because certainly we're all human, and if it's a good promotion opportunity, they may be enticed to go elsewhere. So we want to make sure that those folks continue to make Waxahachie kind of the employer of choice for them, and so it's retaining those folks. And so we took an item to council for a mid-year COLA, and they agreed to do that. So we did that across the board for all personnel, including public safety. Of course, their civil service, our police and fire both under civil service, and we offered that COLA adjustment to those personnel as well. So it was very, very generous of City Council.
Mr. Scott, you plan with what you have, and you try to make it happen with what you have, and then every once in a while you have to go for a little more because of circumstances. Right. Whenever you're doing these things, there's people who they're having a lot of difficulties with property taxes, and while that is a political thing, where you come in is being a steward of the people's money.
Yeah.
Now, can you talk to the people of Waxahachie about your thoughts on that and the kind of things that you may be doing to try to save a few bucks here and there?
Sure, no, I'd be happy to. One is really just monitoring our expenses very closely. We're still a kind of a smaller community. We still are very conservative. We don't have really elaborate projects. We try to stick to the blocking and tackling. Of course, we want to provide amenities where we can and make Waxahachie a great community to call home. So we watch on the expense side. We really try to watch what we're spending. On the revenue side, of course, sales tax has been our friend. We are a retail hub, which has served us very well. We've got very strong sales tax numbers to supplement our ad valorem. So on the ad valorem side, probably where you're kind of going with your question, what are we doing? Of course, we have a 66-cent tax here in Waxahachie per 100, and which is the lowest in the county. It's the lowest of all cities in the county. And I say all full service cities, I should say. There are some small cities that are limited service communities that have lesser tax, but all full service community cities, we have the least property tax rate of 66 cents. So as we're looking to next year, I mentioned earlier, we've got a strong fund balance. We have strong sales tax numbers, which we're continuing to monitor. There may be the ability to recommend reducing our property tax. Again, I don't vote on these things. I just assemble kind of a budget and present to council and say, hey, here's what you could do. And so I'm looking at trying to incorporate that as an option for council. I can't make promises to anybody as to what council is going to do. I have been kind of prompted by a number of them that have said, "Hey, I'd like to see what that would look like." And so we're trying to give them that option as the budget's brought forward. What would a penny or two off the property tax look like, and let them make the decision.
You're having to juggle all these things, and you hear, a tax cut, and then in the back of your mind, on one side, hey, my property taxes just got, less. That's cool, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm also having to go to work on Monday and figure out how I'm going to make that all work.
Mm-hmm.
And so, being a good steward of people's money, and dealing with that, and dealing with trying to do the balance of, okay, you want to have a very efficient government as much as possible as it can be efficient, and but also provide the services. And then one of the services that, or kind of the things that I've noticed that we're doing, is a lot of the park and recs, kind of recreation things that we're doing around the city. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, again, I think you're speaking to a lot of the amenities that we're able to provide now, and I would again attribute kind of our strong sales tax to allowing us to do some of those projects, those quality of life projects. Rewind 15 years ago, and essentially we were just fixing streets, and we were just adding firemen or policemen or whatever. We were just doing the very basic items. And as our sales tax has grown the last several years, it's allowed us to do some of those quality of life things. And so many people are familiar with our Rail Yard Park project, which is here in the south part of downtown, a very nice amphitheater park there. That was a big ticket project, but it was something we were able to do because of those sales tax money that has come in. Again, being a regional hub for retail sales and for shoppers. That allows where community or folks can come into our community, spend money, go home, and we benefit from those sales tax dollars. And so that's kind of nice. Those are nice revenues to get because it doesn't require a lot of services from the city. So it's allowed us to do some of those amenities. Of course, our hike and bike trail system is one of our most popular amenities, park amenities. We added the Little Creek Trail last year, well, year before last, actually, that came online. And I've run it several times and thoroughly enjoy it. It's heavily used. It connects a number of parks. It connects school sites. It connects neighborhoods. I mean, so it's kind of a neat connection right through the middle of town. It's been extremely popular. So yeah, as we're growing, DB, we're able to do some of those things that again are kind of really what makes the community a community. I mean, people expect when you turn the faucet, the water's going to come on, or when you flush the toilet's going to flush, and you've got a road to drive on. They expect those things. Or when you dial 911, someone's going to show up. I mean, those are kind of the basic stuff as a community, and those are things we continue to have to provide and provide with excellence. But we also need to do those things that are kind of above and beyond that make a community a place where people want to come and they want to call home and they're proud of and they take pride in. And gosh, it's like the parades that we have and the fireworks festivals and Texas Country Report. I mean, all these things are kind of just amenities and add-on items that we appreciate as humans and as a community. We want to be able to continue to provide those at a very high level.
And that goes into that balance that I think Mayor Barnes was talking about when we interviewed. He was talking about having a balance of you can work here, you can live here, you can play here.
Yep.
And that's kind of what he was talking about.
So something else I think that he was providing, he also references a lot is of course we have a lot of residential homes coming on, a lot of residential development, and something I know that's near and dear to the mayor's heart because he's formerly the economic development director here at the city, is some economic development growth. And we've got a couple projects that are going to be fantastic for our community that are going to add to our ad valorem base, like our values, and not provide a big burden from a residential standpoint. That actually will be a good place for people to work, provides good sales tax numbers and good ad valorem value.
What we got coming now? You got me curious.
Yeah, well, you have to stay tuned. It's in the works. Yeah.
Hey, you heard it here first.
It's just a teaser, but it's coming. And we're excited about it, and there's good things on the horizon, and really it's those things, DB, as those come online, And there's some other communities that benefit from like large, and this is not what I'm referring to, but like whether it be a large data center, a project that provides a huge economic boost to the economy. That's what allows a community to be able to give real tax relief to the residents, is when you can supplement your ad valorem base with a non-residential use like that. And that's what provides that balanced economy that the mayor is excited about, that hopefully in the future we'll be able to kind of get to provide some real tax relief for our community.
Yeah, sounds like there's some very big things coming to Waxahachie. Pretty exciting,
Yep.
pretty exciting stuff coming. Um, you know, I really I wanted to talk to you before we close it out. I wanted to talk to you about uh policing. What I know that you work with the chief of police, and what are some of the concerns he might be bringing to you? That does he, does he need more money? What are some of the challenges the city is facing from that point?
We have an amazing police force. In fact, when we built the new police station a couple years ago, it's kind of been the envy of a lot of departments. And in fact, I just got the phone with someone this week who's bringing their architect down to tour our facility and kind of see what a really awesome facility it is. And that's really kind of set the tone for the entire department. We have just an incredible team of dedicated officers. And one thing I'll tell you that I'm particularly proud of is our ability to recruit a very, very diverse force as well. That wasn't always the case. I mean, it was always very difficult. We've had some amazing opportunities here recently where we've been able to hire minority and women and just real diverse police force, and that serves us very well. The more we can reflect our community, the better, and that's something we really strive for. So I'm really proud of the inroads we've made there. Not there yet completely, not the destination, but we're certainly making good progress. One of the challenges that the police has had, and I think maybe when I was on before, we talked about this last year, which was our mental health community, and just some of the folks that have concerns with mental health, and particularly around homelessness and so forth, where a lot of times if there's an altercation or some sort of issue and the police show up, the situation can escalate. And so our chief of police is excellent at what he does, and he brought forward the idea of a mental health expert as a budget request last year. And so we've since hired, actually, it's a firm that has allowed us provided us a resource full time that's really trained in that field. And they can show up on a scene, kind of de-escalate it, keep it from becoming a police situation, and hopefully give these folks kind of the help they need from a mental health standpoint before it escalates into more of a violence situation. So we're excited about that and be able to provide that level of care. I think that just shows the heart of our city and of our police force, that we want to give people the support and help they need, and I think that's just one great example of doing that.
One of the big things that get mentioned is the amount of property crimes. Whenever you're growing a growing city, like Waxahachie, you're going to have a lot of property crimes, and I guess they've been happening frequently. Does the chief bring that up every once in a while, or that one of those problems coming through?
Yeah, we have our share, like any growing community. But I will tell you though, with the amount of growth we've had, I think really our unified crime report has really remained pretty flat, given the amount of new growth we've had. Because sometimes you can see a spike when that happens, and so we've done pretty well keeping those numbers in check. But yeah, certainly as there's a unique situation or a unique issue, he and I have conversations about those and how to best tackle those. And certainly if it becomes more of a systemic issue, we want to make sure we get out ahead of it and before it escalates into a bigger problem.
Well, again, you gave a very informative show. I always appreciate when you give me your time to be able to talk to the people of Waxahachie and kind of let them know some of the things that are going on from the person running it every day. Is there anything you want to close out and tell the people of Waxahachie before we go?
I guess the only thing I would say, I'll put a quick plug in here. Again, I'm not political by any means, but I will just mention we do have an election coming up. And so early voting begins on April 25th. And so there's a number of polling locations that are on our website. You can look at those. And actually, there's even a sample ballot. So we've got three spots, three places on city council that are up for election. And certainly would appreciate the community coming out and voting and being involved in that way. So and again, we're growing, but also we're still small town, and I have an open door and a phone that's just a call away. That if anyone ever needs anything, they can talk to the city manager and be happy to visit with them and see what I can do to help them out.
I can attest that he does answer that phone. So, again, thank you so much again for coming by and talking about those things, Mr. Scott. I know you've had a long day. We both have. So, I'll bid you adieu. You take care.
Thanks, Stevie. I appreciate it.
Bye bye.